enlightenment, wholeness. Oh, yeah, that's easy. You're born with it. It ain't all that serious, okay? You don't need a guru. You don't need a spiritual teacher. You don't need a life coach and all that. It's inside of you. Everything you need is inside of you. So if you want to discover that, you're in the right place. Well, no, not that place. That's the right place too, but you're already in the right place. There it is.
Alright, dude, let's click subscribe and we'll make that bell dark and let's go. Bye. Good morning, I'm Dr. Chiboola Malaambo. Inside each and every one of us, there is this infinite well of wisdom, knowledge, understanding that we can all access. Here's how I accessed mine. I remember standing on a corner when I was about 8 years old. I heard some voices. At least I thought that's what they were. Voices saying something like, your life it's like a movie, and you're an actor, like on a stage. Each human being plays a part, and you have a part to play. I was fascinated by that thought. All through grade school, I loved learning, in that I enjoyed it, played with it, was intrigued by it, drawn to it, gave life to it. It never seemed to be a struggle. It was some passion I had for learning. Same thing in junior high school. I remember finished 9th grade and my English teacher said, you know, there's a program you can go to if you want to in the summer. I said, really? Well, what is it? Well, it's a program at a private school. You can go out there and study all summer long. I said, of course, I'll do that. So I did. Well, my grades were good, and they saw I could play basketball, football, run track, so they offered me a scholarship, and I took it at that high school, that private school up in Seattle. Beautiful experience. Met one of my sacred friends there. So when I graduated, I went off to Princeton. He went to Columbia. Stayed at Princeton for a couple of years. And I met some interesting upperclassmen. They were studying religion. And I was confused at the time. So I said, you know what, can we have a meeting? I need to figure out what to do with myself, my life. And we met, about 5 of us. And they said, well, what do you want to, tell us, what do you want to do? What draws you? I said, well, you know, I want to help people. But I want free time to live my life. But I'd like to have enough money to do what I want to do. They said, oh, okay. That sounds like medicine to me. One of them said. I said, interesting thought. After 2 years, I transferred to the University of Washington, continuing my pre-medical studies. Finished at the University of Washington after 3 years, and then applied to medical school. I was accepted at Howard University, and then I decided to take a year off before I started. I figured I wouldn't be able to travel or do much. So I went to Africa. Lived outside for half a year. Yeah, outside. Things we do when we're young and crazy. One of the most powerful experiences of my entire life was to be there. Those loving people in East Africa, Tanzania, and Zambia, and Kenya. They gave my family that name, Malaambo. Named me Chiboola. The tribe was called Tonga, Toonga. Chiboola means a son who was taken from home and then returned. In college, I studied martial arts, meditation, Chinese history, music, energy meditations. After medical school at Howard, magnificent school, I went to do my internship and residency at Martin Luther King Jr. General Hospital. Started in family practice. Almost killed myself. Seems like I never stopped working day or night. I took all the work home with me. Then went on to emergency medicine residency. Finished that. Started to work in the city of Bellflower for Kaiser Permanente. I was the first emergency trained physician to work in the ER as staff. We had a powerful department, and our hospital was rated #1 in the world for cardiac care in the early 90s. That's where I met another sacred friend, Little Bear. I was never really a spiritual person, really. I mean, we went to Sunday school and I skipped it and tried to go to the sermons instead. They seemed much more interesting. One day Little Bear said, you know, there's a psychic around the corner and maybe we should go see her. I said, psychic? Why would I do that? That doesn't even exist. Well, it could be interesting. No, it's not interesting to me. After some prodding for weeks, I said no, and then all of a sudden she said, well, you know, why don't we just go over and prove how she's wrong? Why don't we prove that to everybody? I said, fine, let's go. Yeah, well. So I go over there thinking, this is ridiculous. And I meet this woman and she proceeds to tell me every single thing about my life, including what I did that morning at home by myself and what I thought of during the meditation. And my life just changed. I realized there was something that existed that I didn't even know about. So I worked for the organization and something happened and there was some tension and stress. So I decided to go on like a spiritual retreat. In the meantime, another colleague gave me a book called Cry On, The End Times. And during the period of time when there was some conflict, I decided to go on a retreat up into the mountains in Colorado, to a Cryon retreat. And after 4 or 5 days of meditations and channeling and workshops and things, it was time to leave. And the statement at that time was that, you know, when you leave here, your life's never going to be the same. Of course, I didn't believe that either. When I left that conference and returned back to my job, well, it was about the last day that I ever worked there. Something had happened and I looked at it. It pushed me somewhere I'd never been, some kind of weakness, some kind of paralysis, some type of inability. I remember I was catatonic. I was totally catatonic. I was just lying on the couch. I couldn't even move. I was telling my arm, you know, raise up, lift up, move. But I couldn't do it. I was just stuck there. And so finally, one of my friends came over to visit and he told me, you know, I got to tell you something, man. There's more to this thing. I had been teaching martial arts to all my young kids, young students. I started off with my own sons, and then we started school, they were teaching, then they decided to go off to college, and so I inherited their young students. And I created this school school for gifted children. A school where we could find the gift in any child because we taught them how to find the gift within themselves. And so my friend came over and I was catatonic and I couldn't think. He said to me, what are you going to tell your students? What are you going to tell the kids? You got hurt and then that was the end of everything? That's what happened to their teacher? The thought of it was like so energizing. I think my body just ascended right into the air. As children, very important to me. So, I remember driving home from that conference. A woman was on the side of the road. Her car had broken down. And I stopped. I said, "What can we help you with?" She said, "Yeah, my car, something's wrong with it. I don't know what to do here." I said, "I'm not a mechanic, but maybe I can take you somewhere." She said, "Oh man, that would be great. You could take me to work." And so we took her to work, and she happened to work at this spa. This mineral waters and hot baths and things. She said, come in, be my guest. And, you didn't have to stop for me. Be my guest. So we went in. When I went inside there, I saw these caves. So I said, wait, now I'm going to go on in here and see what's going on. So I went in the caves, and there was a couple in there and their kids, and they were walking around. I said, this water feels so good. I think I'll just lay back in it. I laid back in the water. They had left, the family. I was in there by myself, and all of a sudden, these voices began. There is more to this process than you think. We are here for a reason. We are speaking to you so that you understand more clearly the relationship between what is occurring now with your life and what is occurring on the other side, what we call a veil. This is this waterfall you are watching. It manipulates the light so nothing is exactly clear as it is if you were not looking through this waterfall, but you're watching and you're looking through this waterfall, and it is modifying everything so it is slightly adjusted. And that is how it is on our side of the veil, on the spirit side of the veil. And it's important for you to understand how all of this works in our relationship to you. We will be communicating things to you that may be of benefit. And we start right here with you understanding who you are in your relationship to what you cannot see. I left there a different person, and I remember I was driving down. I was driving with Little Bear at the time, and I drove by this Jack in the Box McDonald's or something, some hamburger place, and we stopped in there. And I said, something's wrong with me. I don't know what this is, but I feel as if I'm suddenly aware of the area around my body that extends out about 30 or 40 feet. And I can feel every single human being that walks through that area. I feel them, and I have an intense experience of what I think is love for every person that walks through that field. I didn't know what was occurring. I had never had any such experience as that before. And we went on back home, and then I continued to hear things. Hawks started speaking to me, and the rocks started talking to me, and explaining things to me. The rocks explained how they were alive. And they were vibration, but it's just that their vibration was so slow that they didn't seem to be alive. And I didn't know what was occurring with me. I was so frightened at times. And what occurred was that I had to go through this process of figuring out what is this, because being a doctor, I knew about psychosis and hearing voices, and I knew I was on my way there because I was hearing all kinds of very clear voices. And I had a thought that, I had a thought that something could change here, that if I could get a handle, I felt that there was a question. And the question was that, is there a way that instead of being the servant of these voices, instead of having a relationship based on fear, could I have a relationship where I was the master of the voice? And I could ask the voice, what? Who, when, where, why? And I could request of it. And so I tried to figure out how I could possibly get there. So I started reading books by Cryon and scripts by Tobias, Louise Hay, Conversations with God, Four Agreements. And I'd memorized all this material and data, and I'd record it myself. And then what I do, I just put headphones on, and I go walk in the streets for hours and hours and hours and hours, and walking and listening and walking and listening to my own voice talk about these things. I remember that I saw this movie. It was the Matrix. Something about that movie, it was the strangest things. I'd go in and see it. I'd go by myself. I must have gone like 20 times. But each time I went, it was like there was a shift occurring. A change had occurred in me. Something that was occurring by watching the transformation of beings on that screen. Somehow there was a transformation occurring in me. I was living in a garage at the time. I had no money. I didn't even know I didn't have any money. That's how far things had gone. And slowly over time, something shifted. This awareness that, yes, this is changing. Somehow the questions that came to me, I just would sit at the computer and I'd start to write. I'd write, and what would happen was I would think about a question, any thought at all, and all of a sudden I'd start to receive information in regards to that. Something that made sense. I didn't know where it was coming from or why it was coming or what I was doing with it. But there it was. Out of nowhere, all these words, and I'd write for pages and pages and pages. And it seemed that what had changed was the fear had left me. That there was a new conversation that had emerged. A conversation between my conscious self and some other part. And I noticed it was so caring. It was so compassionate, so direct, clear. So supportive. Not dominant, not controlling, not fearful anymore. It was like alive, awake, and responding to something. And at first I didn't realize how to invoke these conversations. And as time passed, it became clearer and clearer that all that was necessary was just to ask and listen. Just ask and listen. And whatever I asked was answered. And then the synchronicity. The synchronicity of all these occurrences. Things happening just at the right time. Something coming by and seeing it on the side of a bus or a billboard or in a phone call or in a movie or in a message in a song. And all of a sudden this relationship became very active and very alive. And I realized that somehow I had made a choice to have a different relationship with this source of information. And so some 9 years after that conference with the cryon, I remembered something. I remembered that the cryon channeled by Lee Carroll that had met with me individually and met with each one of us. But one thing that happened, the cryon gave me a name. Lover of humankind. Lover of humankind. And I was the only one in that conference that received that name. And I said, could this it's about some kind of connection in that way? Is it something to do with a change in me and a morphing? And as the years have gone on, I'm 20 years now, and I realize, yes, clearly, as I send these questions, any question, and the response is always clear, always present, always caring, gentle, always powerful. And when I share my words with you, this is the source. From which they originate.